Hello, everyone. Welcome to Opinions New by Dr. Frank Tianxie. I'm Frank. In this episode, I want to talk to you about street vendors. Street vendors in China, Taiwan, and the United States. Okay. Why am I talking about this? Why is this issue brought up? Basically, the street vending or street vendors in China was brought up by Chinese Premier Li Keqiang a couple of weeks ago as a way to increase employment and help boost the Chinese economy. So when this Chinese premier visited a street market, somewhere, and he said, okay, let's encourage people to become entrepreneurs and start, become street vendors so they can get a job for themselves and support themselves. Right? But soon after, the government started to encourage street vending, and then the mouthpiece of Chinese Communist propaganda machine, and also the municipal government of Beijing started to ban and liquidate all those street vendors. So it seems to be some power struggle among the Chinese Communist leadership, right? But it also shows how badly the Chinese economy truly is, because it seems to be that seeking or trying to encouraging street vendors has become a new way of boosting Chinese economy. Right? And also it shows how the Chinese people how pitiful situation they are in, because they can't even have a street vendor, as a way for them to, get them out of the economic trouble. Okay? Basically, there are articles or talks about why does the Chinese government suddenly encourage street vendors, right? And maybe of course, some say it's because they want to, enhance or increase the productivity and hopefully, create jobs. And some say they want to use this as a way to reduce inventory by those Chinese manufacturers, right? But put them all together, this is not going to be the really effective way to boost the economy or to eliminate stocking or excessive inventory in Chinese factories. Because the recession in China that we are seeing today, it's not really that China needs to have more outlets or retail outlets to boost their retail sales. It's not that. It's really a matter of limited purchasing power and consumption power of the people. It's really, China does not need to have there's no shortage of retail outlets. There's a shortage of jobs, income, and discretionary income, right? And consumption, right? That's a real problem. But on the other hand, if you look at the street vendors, it is a competition, right? It's a competition in a way that competes with the real brick and mortar stores, formal stores, shopping centers, right? And also kind of is a competitor to e-commerce, online businesses. Yeah. But mostly for street vending, we know that they are mostly selling things like medium to low priced items, like food items, clothing, shoes, toys, electronics, normally at the medium to low level of merchandise. You wouldn't expect to see, sales of those high-end items on by street vendors. You wouldn't trust that. If you have the money or ability to buy, you would not want to go to a street vendor to find the brand name items, high-end items. People wouldn't trust them, right, to be real. Okay? And one of the Chinese researchers on real estate, the state municipal real estate research institute, and the head of that said the economy created by street vendors uh, causes or leads to huge damage to the commercial real estate market. Yeah. But that's probably not true. It's just one of the reasons, or one of the excuses the government uses to eliminate, clean up those street vendings in Beijing. Okay. So also in Chinese national state-controlled media, they forbids the use of street vending economy, street vendor economy. Why is that so? Because they feel like if the economy based on street vendors is not looking good. It does not look good on the face of the Chinese government. And who cares about the saving face for the Chinese government? Who doesn't know this is a notorious dictatorship government, right? And this is ridiculous. Even countries like those rich, well-developed countries in the world, they have street vendors. Okay? But if as long as the city or the government, the local governments can manage the issues well, and provide a certain guidance, I think the street vendor could become something really nice and attractive. Could be part of your unique culture, right? And be part of your tourist resource. Yeah. Think about the Taiwan night market. If you've ever been to Taiwan, everyone loves Taiwan's night markets. Okay? I've been to Taiwan many times, probably 9, 10 times. I have been to 7, 8 different night markets in Taipei, and a couple in Kaohsiung, in Tainan also. Okay? And but the Taiwan's night market is well managed. Okay, it's become part of the culture of Taiwan. Right. So in China, the government, the premier, the intention, I believe, was to create a job, create some jobs for low-income families who are currently unemployed. But so long as the government can do something to manage that, provide necessary services like providing water utilities and also some cleanup, and it could be a good way to help with the economy. But the propaganda department of the Communist Party actually just killed this great idea, unfortunately. Okay? I want to share with something about my experience. 10 years ago, I was on the faculty of business at the Drexel University in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania. Yeah. One thing I remember and I enjoyed really a lot, was to go to the street vendors, food trucks, alongside the Market Street, major main street over there. There's one food truck right next to, very close to our school business building that I frequented, and it was owned and run by a old black lady, and she was selling fried fish and some bean rice. It was very tasty, very tasty. It's not expensive. I don't remember exactly how much. It's about $6 or $8, and there's always a long line at her food truck. Everybody loves that. Loves it. Yeah? And also in Philadelphia, if you have been there, or there is the Geno's Philly steak. That's my favorite also. It's very rich, lots of onions, cheese, and rich, greasy, but tastes good. As long as you don't care too much about gaining weight. That store also becomes a landmark of Philadelphia. Many people go in there. Next time you go to Philly, check it out. Okay. And there are even academic research on street vendors. Right? they've been talking about that there are research talking about the advantages and disadvantages of street vendors. Okay? Basically, overall, about disadvantages of having or owning or running a street vendor, like a food truck or whatever food souvenir stand or things like that. First thing is that it's convenient. It's portable. You can easily move that from place where it's not selling well to another location. Okay? And that's one. And also, there's not much fixed costs like rent, utilities, insurance, etc. But there are disadvantages like competition. There are fierce competitions among street vendors. Because someone sees that this thing is selling well, they'll copycat. They'll come to compete with you. Okay? And also the weather, the elements. Cold, hot, heat, humidity, raining, then storming, a lot of things, making it hard to be a street vendor. Okay? And in the street, on the street of New York City, I'm sure many of you have seen culture. People just love the street vendings, and they're selling everything from sugar coat and even omelet. Okay? There's even international street vending. I found that to be interesting. It started in 2012, and so every year we're having a conference and gathering and reward around 1 billion street vendors. Having about 2 people attending one street vendor. As to think to sell across the world, street vendor. As to think to sell across the world in all different countries, they could be selling goat cheese to high tech, chips, SIM card on cell phones, and computers, laptops, and to car repairs, haircuts, all kinds of things you can imagine, all from different countries. Right? And that's actually the total sales revenue is estimated to be $1 trillion US. 1 billion street vendors selling $1 trillion US. And it's said that this number could be very conservative, and the real number could be higher than that, because in many countries, the governments do not take that into consideration in calculating their gross domestic product (GDP). And even if they do want to include that, you can expect those vendors to report truthfully, how much they made, right? And of course, if you have a brick and mortar store, it's harder for you to underreport. Right? You think about the 1.8 billion people. That's a quarter of the world population of 7.7 billion people. That's a lot. That's actually an army larger than the population of any country, larger than Chinese population, than Indian population. Right? If you think about the 1.8 billion people running 1 billion street vendors, whatever, could be on food truck, or be just a stand, or it could be anything, right? And generating $1 trillion US, right? So on average, every street vendor in the world, we generate about $10,000 US every year with 2 people, right? 1.8 people, 2 people. So per person, if you on average worldwide, people will make the street vendor, the owner will make, per person will make about $5,000 US. That's a state or world average. Yeah, of course, you can expect that the street vendors in New York City or in Paris or in London will make more, and those in Delhi, so in China or in Bangladesh will make $5,000 US is about the 35,000 Chinese dollars, okay, and about 3,000 Chinese dollars per person per month. Okay, that's actually the average income of Chinese people. Okay? So in other words, don't be fooled by Chinese communist propaganda about bragging about their accomplishment or economic growth. The average income of Chinese worker is actually about the same as average income of internet. Drug trafficking, illegal drugs, illegal trade, or con artists, There, of course, there are con artists out there, right? There are cheat, there are deceptions and the frauds. But the most street vending is actually legal. They're just a good, hardworking business person, man or woman. Right? In America, the rules are different from city to city. In New York City, it's okay to have street vendors. In Los Angeles, there is not allowed. Yeah, and the city government of Los Angeles, they take out, they kick 10 to 50,000 street vendors out of the streets. Yeah. But in New York, even though they don't have there's no, it's legal to have street vending, but there is a limit as to the number of permit they will issue. Okay, meaning their vending machines, or not vending machine, renting their stand or so, without license, but they could be fined or harassed by the police. Okay. Basically, street vending brings some prosperity to our cities and also give people of the society a way of make a living for themselves. So even large companies, okay, global companies like Procter& and Gamble, Unilever, when they're trying to sell something in developing countries, they use street vendors too. Let me I have to tell this story. I found this story quite fascinating. Yeah. Back in 2009, there was a hot dog, vendor in New York City, and she was actually kicked out of the stairs of the Metropolitan Museum of Arts, yeah, because she failed to pay $50,000 worth of. Everyone was shocked, right? Selling hot dogs, paying $50,000 a month on rent. How many hot dogs do you have to sell? And not only that, the person involved is a lady named Pasang Sherpa. Pasang Sherpa side of the museum. She, on contract, she has to pay, New York, park services, through stand, hot dog stand. So that's why the two together amounts to 53,000 a month in rent for $2 per hot dog. Think about that. How many hot dogs does she have to sell? A lot, right? And but the vendor before her, the owner of the stand before her, actually paid 410,000 in rent. Think about that. And the supplies and alone, is probably $20,000. So that vendor had to sell over $440,000, to break even. The answer is 14 to 16,000 a year. 14 to 16,000 a year. That is about $1,200 to $1,300 a month. Yeah, that's not a lot, right? If you live in New York City, that's probably not good. In other part of the country, it might be okay. But that is at a $16,000 a year, sorry, and that amounts to about $8 per hour working. $8 per hour, and that's just a little bit higher than, just a little bit over the federal minimum wage of $7.25. So, but that's the number. Yeah. Consider being street vendors. You need to consider numbers. Okay. Okay, that's all I have for this episode of Opinions New by Dr. Franklin Shi. I'll see you next time. Bye.